Tanse, good morning and good afternoon. I'm Chris Sinachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. A chief in northern Manitoba is speaking out against drug dealers after his house was burnt to the ground last week. Little Grand Rapids First Nation Chief Clinton Keeper's house burnt down last Thursday morning at around 5:30 a.m. RCMP say the home was in an isolated area at the end of a road where there were no witnesses. Chief Keeper alleges that drug dealers were involved and believes his house was targeted because of his fight against drugs. Last November, Keeper's 23-year-old daughter died from a drug overdose and says most First Nation communities are dealing with the drug crisis. Keeper is calling for more treatment centers in Manitoba that are free and not for profit. The chief is offering a $5,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest for the house fire. In a statement, Chief Keeper called on all chiefs to stand and fight this epidemic. Our future depends on it. We're burying our young people and we are losing our young people more and more, not just in my community, but in the cities as well. Both the Southern Chiefs Organization and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs have since shown their support for Chief Keeper. And you can read more about that story by going to our website at aptnnews.ca. Manitoba RCMP are asking for the public's help in locating 3 men who were involved in a recent home invasion in northern Manitoba. RCMP is looking for 23-year-old Skylar Cook and 33-year-old Dylan Keeper, both from Lake St. Martin. Police are also looking for 26-year-old Kendall McKay from Winnipeg. Last Thursday at around 4 a.m., Gypsumville RCMP responded to a call of a home invasion in Lake St. Martin First Nation. When officers arrived, the residents reported 3 males entered the home with firearms, demanding wallets and anything else of value. One of the men discharged a firearm, killing a family dog that was inside the home. The suspects then fled with an undisclosed amount of items. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. An Algonquin nation has won another victory in its fight against a proposed nuclear waste disposal site northwest of Ottawa. On Friday, a federal court judge ruled the government needs to reconsider a species at risk permit granted to Canadian nuclear laboratories as part of building the waste disposal site. CNL is located at Chalk River, about 180 kilometers from Ottawa. The court challenge was brought forward by the Keboek First Nation, which says the proposed site is too close to the Ottawa River and doesn't take into account risks to various wildlife such as bears, bats, and turtles. Earlier this year, the First Nation won another victory when a federal court ruled the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission did not fulfill its duty to consult obligations with local First Nations before approving the nuclear disposal site last year. A man from Thunder Bay has been charged with sexual assault following a historical sexual assault investigation in Collins First Nation located north of Gold Bay. Police arrested a 61-year-old man and charged him with gross indecency, indecent assault on a female, sexual assault, and sexual assault causing bodily harm. The OPP says the complaints are alleged to have happened in Collins First Nation between 1978 and 1988. Police are asking anyone with more information or any other victims to come forward and report it. An Alberta judge will not review the Crown's decision not to charge an Edmonton police officer who kicked an Indigenous teenager in the head 5 years ago. A warning, some of the images in this story are disturbing. Court of King's Bench Justice Michael Krause has recently dismissed a judicial review by Pacey Dumas. Dumas suffered a soccer ball-style kick to the head by Edmonton police officer Constable Ben Todd. The review was dismissed because Krause found no evidence to support Dumas's argument that failing to prosecute constituted an abuse of power. Dumas's lawyer says they are now pursuing a civil lawsuit against the Edmonton Police Service and said police brutality is an increasing problem in Alberta, and this recent decision adds to that. The hacking of an online video live stream for an awards ceremony soured an otherwise positive and celebratory event honoring student athletes in Manitoba. The 51st annual Frontier Games saw grades 4 to 8 students from across rural and northern Manitoba to compete in their sports of choice. A live stream was available on YouTube for family to watch who couldn't make it to the event in Swan Lake, Manitoba, roughly 600 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. But an alleged hacking saw the title for the awards ceremony video changed to something terribly offensive, says the principal of Swan Lake's Joseph H. Kerr School on Facebook. In a public statement, Chief Superintendent Tyson McGilvery says the post of the hack was unfortunate. He added, Frontier School Division is working with our IT department and, if needed, the authorities to find the source of this offensive posting. Canada's ambassador to the U.S. says Prime Minister Mark Carney is looking to set up a conversation with U.S. President Donald Trump as soon as possible, as Canada waits to see the reciprocal tariffs that will be rolled out in April.
So that's the conversation we want to have. Serious conversation, respectful conversation. The new Prime Minister respects what President Trump's trying to do. He's trying to supercharge the U.S. economy for American people, and that's what he's also trying to do for Canada. So they have a lot in common. I think it'll be important to proceed with that discussion in a professional, measured way.
Ambassador Kirsten Hillman says on April 2nd, the U.S. will set levies that will affect the whole world, including Canada. The federal government is waiting to see where Canada fits in on the fairness agenda. She says Canada will focus on domestic investment, trade diversification, and what's best for Canadians. A First Nation in southwestern Manitoba has tried for years to recruit a doctor for the community. Gambler First Nation, which is about 350 kilometers northwest from Winnipeg, has fewer than 100 residents. The First Nation has gone 6 years without a doctor. Here's a report from CTV.
When's this building coming, Kelly?
Chief David Ledoux looks over blueprints for a new health clinic. His community of Gambler First Nation in southwestern Manitoba desperately needs one.
Right now, we can't even get a family doctor.
His community relies on clinics nearly half an hour away, and even then,
they just don't have any room for anybody, so a lot of my appointments I'm finding are 2 or 3 years down the road.
He was desperate for local care when he suffered a heart attack back in 2019.
It was pretty scary for me to be out here.
He made it a mission to recruit help, a search that took 6 years. Going through the province's immigration services, they found Igor Shinkeru.
I wanted a challenge in my life. I know that my English was good enough.
Shinkeru says he practiced family medicine in Brazil for 7 years. He will eventually be the new doctor in town, but first has to spend a year as a clinical assistant while he finalizes the last steps for Canadian medical certification.
It means a lot. I feel very honored.
There are fewer than 100 residents here, and the future doctor says he already knows Gambler has a high rate of diabetes, and he wants to do something about that.
We should really try to improve lifestyle and diet before it can become more severe.
For the chief, he's a critical new resident.
It was our ultimate dream. I never thought it would happen. I really didn't.
The clinic is set to open later this month for people living here in the community, but there is a possibility that it could open up to those living in the surrounding area, depending on availability. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Gambler First Nation, Manitoba.
With St. Patrick's Day today, we'll introduce you to a young Mohawk woman who is also celebrating today. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. For people living in remote parts of Australia, the price of groceries can be double those in urban areas. After months of consultation with the federal government has released a much anticipated 10-year strategy towards improving food security, including better access to affordable and nutritious foods. NITV's Northern Territory correspondent Emma Calloway reports from Maningrida, located 500 kilometers east of Darwin.
Here in Maningrida, there are 2 stores servicing the town. The cost of groceries varies on availability, often impacted by issues with the supply chain. Most of the food comes by barge or road, driving up the cost of essentials to more than double prices in major cities.
Very, very expensive. The other issue with food is food security, so we rely heavily on one barge service for a long time, now 2, but still we had no eggs for 3 or 4 weeks, I believe. So things like that, things just don't come.
From milk, sugar, toilet paper and baby formula, at the checkout, community members are frequently faced with the shock of how it adds up.
Because they're looking at what they want to buy, then sometimes they leave it on a trolley, and some they buy, some they leave it on a trolley, so we'll put them back in the shelf.
For years, people in this community and others in remote regions across the country have called for greater support from the government. Now, on the eve of a federal election, where cost of living will be a crucial worry for many, the Minister for Indigenous Australians has announced plans to improve food security for remote communities.
We know that in closing the gap, we have to improve the health and well-being of First Nations people across Australia, and this food strategy will go a long way to doing that.
It's part of a 10-year national strategy that will see 120 jobs upskilled to create a nutrition workforce with a dedicated governance, training and support package. It builds on previously laid plans to cap the cost of 30 essential items in remote communities.
We have committed $50 million towards subsidising at least 30 essential items in almost up to 150 stores. We've made that announcement. Now is the plan to identify those stores across remote and regional Australia.
Maningrida is one of 21 remote communities, a part of consultations on how food security can be improved. The national strategy is now set to be rolled out to 76 remote communities by July 1st. Emma Calloway, NITV News.
With St. Patrick's Day here, APTN's Kim Sullivan introduces us to a young Mohawk woman who celebrates not only her Indigenous heritage, but her Irish roots too.
One redhead, 2 cultures. It is therefore no surprise to meet individuals like Cahentis Alfred on the Ganawage Reserve.
Of course we have Irish roots. I mean, I got red hair, I'm pale, like it came out of nowhere because both my parents, brown hair, my brothers got brown hair. And then when I was born, it was like, oh, there's a little redhead in there.
The Irish and the Indigenous communities have a shared history of resilience and cultural exchange. In the 19th century, many Irish immigrants to Montreal formed strong and supportive ties with Indigenous groups, particularly the Mohawk residents of the neighboring Ganawage territory.
Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Therefore, Cahentis is proud not only of her Indigenous roots, but also of her Irish heritage.
We were talking to my grandfather, and actually he was telling me, was his grandmother or great-grandmother looked like same features as me, same hair.
Cahentis later discovered that she had Irish roots, more specifically from County Cork.
I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I've always been into the Irish dancing, the red hair.
Irish dancing is something Cahentis did for many years until an injury made her stop.
I miss dancing because I did all the Irish dancing, so I was like, I need dance back in my life. It was actually gifted to me. I started jingle first. I borrowed a dress from someone because I was like, I really want to dance. Like, I feel like I need to dance, so I borrowed a dress, did my first powwow, fell in love.
Then came the smoke dance, a dance she proudly showcased as participant at this year's first edition of the Miss Indigenous Canada pageant.
It was amazing. Like, everyone was like that I talked to was so excited that like someone from Kahnawake was going to the very first one, and then I was like, that feels like it's a lot of weight on my shoulders to represent this whole community.
The experience gave her confidence, and Kehentes has decided to celebrate her Irish heritage in a similar way. She presented herself at the selection night for the Queen and Court of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, organized by the Chateauguay Valley Irish Heritage Association.
Because I had the more confidence from doing the Miss Indigenous pageant, and I gotta celebrate all my heritages. Like, can't just ignore the fact that there's like, I have Irish heritage, clearly.
This time, her confidence led her to be crowned a member of the court, Princess of the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Chateauguay.
This is my crown.
You are princess.
Our Grand Chief is actually going to be judging the parade. Yeah, because they said, yeah, they want to support our contestant and our girl. And I was like, it just made me feel so happy and so good.
What are her duties as member of the court?
So we're there to support our queen, whose name is Olivia, and she's amazing. We have a few events upcoming. We're going to be in the parade. Obviously, that's the most important part. So we get to wave a little bit on the parade and bring a bit of more awareness to the Irish Heritage Association and the Irish community and the Chateauguay, and just say, hey, everyone can join the association. It's not open to just Irish people.
Irish or Indigenous and all in between, wanting to celebrate the 20th edition of the Chateauguay Valley Irish Heritage Parade. Mark your calendars.
So the parade's on March 23rd. It's open to everyone. It's in Chateauguay. Just come out, have a good time. It's always super fun.
Kim Sullivan, APTN News, Kahnawake.
Cool story. Thank you, Kim. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to www.aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime on YouTube. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. And now we want to tell you about the results of last week's web poll questions. We asked on our website at aptnnews.ca the first question: what should First Nations do about RCMP or Crown prosecutors not wanting to enforce their laws? 40% said take matters into their own hands and hire their own police, 32% voted to take them to court, and 26% said to help write new laws in partnership with government, and 2% voted that they were unsure. Next, we asked, should a federal election be called now to set Canada up to take on the United States? 71% said yes to calling an election, while 17% said no, and 12% were unsure. And lastly, we asked, should Canada be militarizing the Arctic to protect its sovereignty? A majority had voted yes, that's 79%, 12% had said no, and 9% were unsure. Thanks again to all those who voted on last week's web poll questions. Check out aptnnews.ca for this week's web poll questions. A huge film studio recently opened in a First Nation in Ontario. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. There is a recent Bigfoot mystery in southwestern Manitoba. Video of what appears to be a big dark cat has been viewed hundreds of thousands of times in just a matter of days. A question is, though, what kind of animal is it? CTV's Michelle Gerwing tried to get to the bottom of it. Stand by for 1 second. All right, we don't have the film. Well, we'll move on to the next story here. A huge film studio has recently opened in a First Nation in Ontario, with organizers saying it can bring a big boost to the local economy. CTV's Alana Everson has that story. Looks like we're having more difficulty.
This massive state-of-the-art facility is called White Owl Film Studios, and it recently opened on the Wahnapitae First Nation. It offers 20,000 square feet of clear span studio space with 64-foot ceilings.
White Owl Studios is the largest Indigenous-led studio in Canada. It's a key piece of infrastructure that's been a long time coming for Sudbury, and it allows us the ability to shoot during the wintertime. It allows us the ability to cater now to a larger series.
It's built like this for different sound and to have an open area, so when productions come in, there's nothing hindering them from building whatever they want.
Partners in the studio say they wanted to give back to the community by building the large state-of-the-art studio on the Wahnapitae First Nation and investing in the future of filmmaking in Canada.
In a lot of our First Nations communities, we have gas stations, cannabis stores, cigarette stores, different things like that. But to have sustainable business with different educational things that are required, I feel that that'll really help our future generations to want to go to school to learn more.
Officials with White Owl Film Studios say it's ready to cater to films and television series while supporting local young creatives starting out, and that it's a real alternative to traditional urban production centers. Alana Everson, Wahnapitae First Nation.
All right, we have that story of cell phone video of a cat in northern Manitoba. Here's CTV's Michelle Gerwing.
Danielle Shingoose was stopped in her tracks this week while taking out her trash at her home in Wayway-Sikapo First Nation.
It looked like a big cat, so I took out my phone and started recording and zoomed in, and it looked like a cougar because of its long tail.
She shared the clip in her family's group chat. Her nephew posted it on Facebook, and in the few days since, it's collected more than 600,000 views.
When I seen it, I said, that's definitely a big feline.
Worried for families in the area, Anthony Longclaws got out his drone to look for tracks, but didn't find much as the snow was too hard.
From what I seen on my drone, there's lots of little rabbit trails in the back there, so there's a quick little lunch there for the cougar.
Right. While Shingoose and Longclaws think it's a cougar, one expert says it's hard to say for sure.
What I saw is an animal that might be a cougar, but unfortunately the video was taken from too far away and it's a little bit grainy, and there's not a lot in the video that can indicate the size of the animal.
However, Bill Watkins says Wayway-Sikapo is a hotspot for cougar sightings in Manitoba. Genetic research he's partnered with Assiniboine Park Zoo on indicates cougars are likely coming back to Manitoba from North Dakota and Saskatchewan.
The habitat's right. When I take out a little ruler and kind of measure the cat to the fence post, seems the right size. Looks pretty dark, but that could be the way the sun is coming on it.
Stephen Peterson is another biologist who works with Watkins. He says it's probably a cougar, but defers to his partner's expert eye.
Whatever it is, it's a pretty incredible observation, I would say.
Michelle Gerwing, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Such a cool story. Be careful out there. And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday, March 17th. We're back again in a few hours with your evening newscast. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.